We are back. Energy is probably a little bit different today. I'm trying to hold myself in a little bit of a different way. So we'll see how this live stream goes. Just want to uplift as many people as possible. That's really the whole goal here. The more people we can uplift, the bigger we can grow this fire of enlightenment, of seeking. And once that fire ignites, beautiful things are going to happen. Welcome IFTERs. So that is really our whole goal here. Welcome Ray Ray Atkinson. But yeah, I'm trying to hold myself in a little bit of a different way today. You may or may not be familiar that I've been changing my practices recently, and so that's what's been going on. Messing around with a little bit of these settings really quickly. Which country am I from? I'm from the US. I live in San Diego in California, listening to some really good music right now. Music is a really good way to bring the mind into, you could say, more abstract realms or whatever, but very uplifting. So if any of you guys have any questions for me, then I'd be happy to answer them. I make spiritual content, also content related to semen retention. So basically there's this idea that there's this substance which is in your body, right? Which you call your semen. And most people, they expel it frequently or in sexual intercourse or masturbation. But actually, if you retain this energy, if you don't release it, actually, this energy can empower you in certain ways because it's literally just energy. It's not sexual energy, it's energy in general. But this energy can be used for many things. It can be used for the sexual activities, but it can also be used for spiritual pursuits after it is transmuted and transformed. Because actually, it's scientifically proven that this energy does get reabsorbed into the body. And so where does it go? Well, it depends. It can travel actually up the spine and into the brain and empower our mental ability and our spiritual seeking. So that's mainly what I do is spiritual contents, semen retention contents, nofap. That's the gist of it pretty much. Shelby, I'm not looking for a girlfriend right now, but I'm trying to spread these teachings and we're trying to grow this community because when we do ignite this fire, this flame of spirituality, or you could say of bliss, of happiness and goodness, then we're going to be then bringing a whole lot more people, and slowly we can be transforming the world potentially. And so that's why I'm partnering with people and trying to make this happen, because that's really what the world really needs right now. It needs spirituality. It needs wisdom. It needs people who are intelligent and wise, because we're facing so many situations, so many struggles as individuals and also as a society as well. So that's basically why I'm here. So I do have an Instagram account. It's the same as my YouTube. So it's just Adiasaya, Adiasaya. But it's the seeking that I hope to inspire in you guys, because ultimately, if you feel motivated and you understand just how intense, how powerful, how amazing, exhilarating the spiritual life, the spiritual pursuits can be, and how much your life can transform, then you'll begin to walk the path, and that's the greatest thing that I can do for you. One of my most impactful teaching, one of the practices which has been most impactful in my life, is to maintain to hold yourself in a certain way. So we can look at everything around us as infinite consciousness or infinite bliss or infinite love, however you want to see it, and constantly holding that tension, and slowly transforms you. There are many different practices. There's this practice called Shambhavi Mahamudra, which Sadhguru teaches, which is another practice. That one is also extremely transformational. but I can't teach it here because it's extremely powerful. And so it needs some amount of supervision in order to actually, in order to give this. But alongside that, Anapanasati is another core practice. But on here, really, if we build this community, we build this community can become a lighthouse, a place for those who are seeking the mystical experiences, who are seeking bliss, love. It will be a place for them to go and to collaborate. And but we desire so many things, and so often we don't desire those things which are actually to our highest benefit, either because we're lacking discernments as to what is actually in our highest good, or we simply haven't been willing. Awareness is also very powerful and very necessary. Awareness is a base for all of the spiritual pursuits, for anything related to spirituality. It's like the cornerstone, you could say. Bliss, peace, joy. These are all things which are, you could say, synonymous to or very deeply related to the spiritual pursuits. I'm just on here teaching about spirituality, talking with you guys, making community, just interacting with you guys, hopefully inspiring you guys. But ultimately, I want to eventually know, hopefully, as many of you as I can on a deeper level and understand you guys. And hopefully, I can help you guys grow and become and turn your life into something that is far more beautiful than you could ever imagine possible. Because that's what we need. We need more beautiful people, more beautiful energies. We need more of us who are constantly residing in bliss and peace and joy and love, so that we can once again ignite that fire, that flame of spirituality. And then life is just going to further transcend and expand into places that you never would have thought possible. That's the thing about the spiritual experiences, about pursuits, about the mystical experiences, is that they are beyond word. There's rarely words that you can use in order to describe the spiritual experiences, in order to describe what spirituality is. I can tell you love, I can tell you peace, I can tell you joy, ecstasy, but even those words are not enough. So it really is quite that beautiful to that extent, because even love is a very beautiful emotion, is a very beautiful experience, but we can still label it. But these things, they go beyond labels. And I seek to find the limits of, or I would rather say, I seek to the God, the divine is infinite. And so my seeking is for that. And I know that that is a never ending pursuit, that once I become enlightened, I know that there will be infinitely more states for me to then continue to reach. And so when we ignite this fire of spirituality, this community together, us all being empowered by one another, we can seek for these higher things, for these higher spheres, as the philosophers called them, for all of these, to reawaken this magic that's at this present time has become, we've lost on this earth. Don't you think all the gurus and priests and rabbis are taking advantage of the laziness of their followers? I think that there are a lot of teachers like that who don't have any good intents for their disciples, but rather seek for money or for some sort of selfish intentions. Ultimately, the spiritual seeking is not so congruent always with laziness, not because we need to work so hard, but when we awaken that spark of, you could call it devotion or love, or you could really just call it addiction. When you awaken that addiction in a positive sense for the divine experiences, for the mystical experiences, for love, for bliss, when you awaken that, naturally you won't be lazy, because naturally you'll be just running after it, because it is that good. It is that blissful. It's technology magic. I don't really know, honestly. We also have to define what magic is really. Magic can be an emotion. Spirituality really truly is magic. It's quite magical, quite blissful. Why am I in portraits? There's also a landscape version on my YouTube. There's two lives that are active. So if you're on the portrait one, and if you want to see me in landscape form, you can head over to the other live stream on YouTube. Mia Lucero, welcome. But my YouTube is the same name, Adi Asaya. That's very true, that teachers should be like friends. When they begin to teach dogma, or when they begin to ask you to worship them, for me personally, in my experience, that's where I would begin to become wary. Because ultimately, a true seeker, a true guru, a true teacher should only wish for your highest well being with no intention for himself. Hello, Quantum. Welcome, welcome. So it is absolutely the case that people, teachers, even great teachers, great gurus in history have become corrupted and have begun to desire to become worshipped out of greed, out of corruption. And so if I ever begin to walk down that path, you'll know it's time to leave me. And I hope that I won't ever end up there. Ultimately, right now, we're in a sort of a dreaming phase. We're also in a phase, for myself at least, I don't know about for you guys, but for myself, I'm in a phase of deep concentration, deep, deep concentration, deep flow, deep love, where we're trying to awaken this spark, this fire. We're trying to ignite this fire so that it might warm all of us. And so I'm doing many things in order to try and enable that to happen right now. Yes, they're deceivers, alchemists. Yes, actually, interestingly, bringing up this word alchemists, lots of the modern day pharmaceutical companies, lots of these chemicals, lots of these pills first, mental illnesses or all sorts of lots of these illnesses first, before they were pills, they were potions. And it really was alchemists, and slowly alchemy evolved into pharmacology and chemistry. And with power, when you gain this sort of inner alchemical transformation or this external transformation, when you gain that power, you can use it for either good or for evil. So for me, spiritually now is surrendering, not seeking. The difference between those two, it looks like Pisces and Sagittarius, or maybe male and female. But there's many different paths up the mountain. And this is something that I was discussing with one of my friends who I interviewed, that there are different peaks even. There's so many paths, and some people might end up in a beautiful land of bliss, and one might end up in a beautiful land of love, another in peace. And there's no judgment on those who end up in the seventh heaven or the fourth heaven, or a different sort of heaven, a different sort of place. But the goal, the seeking, is to elevate ourselves in some way. And for it to also to become real here, not that we are sure to avoid belief so as to not get lost in the path. Yes, absolutely. The more power, the more truth there is, the more danger there also is for falsehood to get mixed in. What's happened recently, absolutely, is that my energy's become a lot calmer, because I've shifted from this sort of active contemplation to more of a passive seeing, you could say. So I'm trying to see always everything as divine rather than contemplate upon everything as divine. I think short term that this will perhaps be less energetic or blissful, but I think that long term that this is really going to build up into something that is quite expansive. Seems like all the knowledge is lost after the Great Flood. It does seem like that. No, that humanity seems to go in cycles, that civilizations seem to rise and to fall, that knowledge seems to reawaken, and also to has a tendency to become lost. It's sort of just like there are cycles of the cosmos and cycles of Earth and in nature. it seems like there's also cycles of civilization and of humanity, and that knowledge also goes in cycles. And that's a part of a lot of my pursuit, and hopefully a lot of our collective pursuit as well, is to once again awaken this thirst for knowledge and this attainment of knowledge. And I hope that all of us can remember, or I guess I would say, realize that knowledge actually really is power, and that there actually really is knowledge out there which is lost or which is otherwise widely not very known, that the attainment of this knowledge actually can change things for ourselves drastically. Shai Milman, I hear you. And for me, for my personal path, there's nothing wrong with seeking or desire as I see it. For me, it's about channeling my desire towards higher things. So, desire for me is actually the essence of life. And so, without any desire, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't meditate, you couldn't seek, you couldn't do anything. But with desire, if we actually transform that desire, if we channel that desire into higher things, into the divine, then actually we are empowering our seeking. And for me, it's about what is practical. And for me, how I would think about surrendering, if I were to do that, for myself, it wouldn't be conducive for spiritual elevation as I would experience it. So everybody's on their own path, and everybody needs to follow their bliss and follow their hearts, and follow what is best for them. But at the same time, there is this wisdom, this understanding that while there are many paths up the mountain and many ways to elevate ourselves, if I were to approach a wall and bang my head into the wall repeatedly and say that this was a path to enlightenment, I could say that, but it wouldn't be a path. So there also does need to be some degree of discernment there. And everybody needs to make that discernment for themselves. Oh, Genova, my heart goes out to you. Situations like that can be very difficult. Interpersonal relationships with people can be really, really painful. And when you go through something like that, that's really, really tough. For me, ultimately, if you want to heal something like this, for me, what really helps is first perhaps to take an understanding. You're only susceptible to what is within you. And that's not to diminish or to be incompassionate to these situations that you have gone through, because I know how impossible it is to deal with, but to try our best with patience to following the philosophy, understanding the philosophy, firstly, that all our thoughts and all our emotions arise within us. And so if we understand that, we should take some steps to begin to do some spiritual practices or some meditation, exercise, just look after ourselves and watch our thoughts, become aware, align our posture, things like these, in order to try and hopefully heal ourselves. But especially if this is recent or it's asking a lot, and my heart goes out to you. Yes, absolutely. Dogma is can be very destructive, and I've also experienced that for myself. That we can get lost in dogma or hold to one certain path because it's comfortable, but not necessarily. It might not necessarily be most conducive for us or for our growth or for our spiritual unfolding. Stray Kids, I'm not familiar with them. Genova, I hope that helps. I've been through tough personal relationships, and it's hard to deal with. And it is important to focus on some good things, maybe get outside, change your environments a lot. We should be seeking for these higher things. And there is this fire which we can awaken among us in our community and in each individual, which is going to bring heaven to earth. It's going to completely transform everything for all of you and in general. I think I'm going to restart the live just to refresh things, maybe get things going a little bit again. We're back. Welcome back, Shai Milman. It's very difficult to penetrate into the infinites, as it were, to know the infinites. How does it feel to be infinite, to see the infinites, to know infinite love, infinite consciousness? It's the highest goal of spirituality. and the most inattainable, because something infinite, as soon as you approach it, just as you do it, it will infinitely recede. And so that's the goal of spirituality, because that chase of the small self for chasing something so big, so divine, so you could say holy, or something so inexplicable. Even just the chase is blissful. Even if it's infinitely receding from us, that chase is quite blissful. Jose Lands, I am 24. Welcome to the live. Hi, my spiritual path was through Osho and the Buddha, age 17. And then Hasidic and New Age, I read the Bible and the Quran and did a lot of meditation. Also knew about Sadhguru. That's all very beautiful. Wow, that's awesome. That's a lot of a lot of similarities between us. I've also done lots of Hindu Sadhguru practices, also Osho, also the Buddha, reading the Bible. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. And we do have a spiritual community that we are trying to develop. So if that does call out to you, then you're welcome to find links in my YouTube bio. They're all around, really. But that's amazing. No matter the path that you choose or the path that you're on, if you're seeking God, seeking divine, seeking the infinite, you can have great success. And because it's infinite, because it's this one infinite thing, there are going to likely be many pathways, and that's okay. Spirituality is about enjoyment, it's about bliss, it's about love and peace. Welcome, Madhu Homu. You're an atheist. I would love for you to ask me some questions, or if you even want to debate about these topics, I'd love to convince you of something. But in the name, nothing, just jumping into the abyss, not shined at all, just knowing how much I don't know, and miss when I complied to a specific spiritual path or orientation. I see what you're saying. There can be lots of bliss in following a specific path, a lot of grace in that for sure. For me, I found the most grace in combining the practices which have awakened the most bliss, peace, and connection to the divine, and finding and creating, as it were, in a way, a certain sort of formula for that seeking, for that exploration and unfolding to occur within me, and following my direct experience. For some people, that direct experience, that knowing, comes from following a specific path. And I've known that myself very well, that a specific path can really sometimes be the most powerful way to seek. Yersin, I'll try to remember that. It's good to see you here, Yersin. Maddo, so what questions do you have for me? Why are you an atheist? I'd love to hear your perspective, and we can talk about it more. Anthony Flores, welcome. Ultimately, atheism is also it is a claim because it's a negation. So agnosticism is you're not making any claims, but with atheism, it means that you're stating your belief that God is non-existent, versus agnostic, which essentially is just an absence of knowing or belief. I would say that I'm a panentheist, so I would say that God is something that is transcendent and is something of its own, God, the divine, and the world is contained within God, but God is also still transcendent. This sort of infinite energy still transcends the physical creation, but nevertheless, the physical creation, each atom, each minute particle, every infinitesimal part of this creation is imbued with that divine essence. Nursing. Donald Scott, in which country do you live? So I live, the state I live in is California in the United States. Man. So I'll tell you my perspective on this. Perspective, as I see it, how I see it is that this pleasure, this bliss, every cell in our body, by its nature, experiences pleasure and pain. And so as we've gone throughout the evolutionary process, we have been, beings have been pursuit of this pleasure, its nature, in seeking of food or in reproduction through sex. Essentially, it's the consumption of energy and the expansion of energy. And that's how I see the spiritual pursuits, that it is the gathering of energy, and it is also making that energy dynamic or expansive. And so that for me is associated with bliss. And when I think of God, I think of Sat Chit Ananda, or truth consciousness bliss. So in my experience, the deeper I am imbued in bliss, my mind expands, my consciousness expands, and I begin to see reality in a new way where it begins to be illumined. And so in my mind, Sat Chitananda is equivalent to this divine consciousness or God. Then that experience of bliss brings us closer and empowering and these things. So yeah, for me, it's about entering into deeper states of that ecstasy, or you could say there's awareness and bliss, just as there is energy and how or dynamic or alive that energy is. Thank you, Sata Kanto. That's a very kind compliment. So it's a good pickup line. I'll have to use that one. But it's just words. Yes, and that is true. So, right? Yeah. Like use this word bliss, but it does, you're right, it does go so much beyond that. You know, God, consciousness, the infinite. These are just words. It's really is inexplicable. Absolutely. And I never claim to be enlightened or claim to know everything, or I'm just another seeker like you guys. And so, but that's the beautiful part of it. You know, if I had found the goal, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd probably would have left my body, or who knows, but I wouldn't be able to be here with you guys. And this seeking is quite blissful. Not that I don't want to reach the goal, but having a good time. I'm enjoying what is going on. America in Delaware, where I was going to tell you that my dad works at Netflix family restaurants. Family restaurants, I think is what you're saying. That's really cool. I've had thoughts, I've had ideas about opening some sort of restaurant or some sort of something related to that. You know, now that you can open like stores, online restaurants sort of aren't physical locations, but that you just sell to DoorDash or to other stuff like that. Truth is, it's definitely an experience. It's something you have to know. Hello, Felipe. Welcome, welcome. Is it a Shiva necklace? Yes, this is a Rudraksha. So, Tears of Shiva. It's pretty cool. It's supposed to give you your own sort of, supposed to keep your vibration. What is your message? My message is that consciousness, God, is infinite, and the degree to which we can explore Him, uncover new knowledge, new practices, a new of sight in order to perceive the infinite, that those things are all infinite as well. And the bliss which we can call down from the universe, from that consciousness, is potentially infinite. And so it's also all infinitely exciting, and that this is the highest life to live in pursuit of what the philosophers called the highest good. And hope to help people find that, seek that, and to help foster this community, which will begin burn and ignite the flame of spirituality for all of us to enjoy and sit in its warmth. How to sit as the world burns. Things are getting really bad. That's a good question. There's lots of problems in the world. And I hope that you can realize that the solution is in each and every single one of us. That instead of looking externally, although we can also do that and should also serve others and help people here on earth. But first, most importantly, as a prerequisite, is that we should change how we are, how we exist within ourselves. And I've also am working on a lot of projects, like this project called Beyond Society, where I hope that in the future, utilizing AI and robotics, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense, that we can create a new society. Because AI and robotics are going to be inevitable. So it's important that we utilize them for our own gain and for the collective gain, rather than for the few CEOs on top who can further begin to take advantage of everybody. Things are not getting bad, things are bad. Yeah, are quite difficult. In this community, because I hope that this is going to be a place for us to stand while the world around us is crumbling, and materially, emotionally, mentally. That's what I'm trying to build, because we need a life raft. It all begins with ourselves, right? Because if there are all these terrible things happening in the external world, if we react with hate or with something like that, we can't benefit the situation. I have a sword. I can cut somebody down, not feel hate in my heart, but actually feel love. I'm not saying that you should cut somebody down or kill somebody, but what I'm trying to say is that when we face these situations in the external world, no matter what the situation with which we are placed in, we can still face it while internally being in a state of love. We see people being exploited, or the planet being destroyed, or an economic situation, or whatever we're facing, we can still remain in a state of love, still be able to be effective and work within the world to the highest degree. Blessings, Felipe. Philippe, have a good day. Good night, brother. Agori. Yeah, so in our Cosmic Cave server, we're trying to build a spiritual super server for everybody. And I'm partnering with, you may or may not be familiar with him, Turbo Bhagwan Anand, who is an Agori, but he is he's a Naga sadhu. And so it's quite adjacent. Maybe almost you could say it's an Agori. I don't know if those are synonymous or not, but okay, I think I'm going to end the live stream here, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I hope that this vibration that we have now is only going to continue to rise, because I'm planning on doing these every single day at 7 or 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. And I think that this vibration hopefully is going to enter into become something otherworldly. So thank you everybody who tuned in, and I hope to see you guys again. I appreciate subscribing, supporting me in any way you can, joining my spiritual community by liking my videos, or appreciate support if you feel called or to offer it. So thank you guys so much. Blessings to everybody. I hope you all have a beautiful day or night.